You're listening
to the CD Baby DIY
Musician
Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode number 103 of the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast. My name is Kevin, and joining me for this Roundtable edition are Chris and The Bolt. Hey guys, how you doing?
Very good, very good.
Very good. We're both very good.
Very
That's good. I've got a little bit of a cold, so my voice may sound funny.
You always sound funny. So.
Well, that's good to know. So, everything going well? Things plowing along?
I'm excited tonight. I'm opening for a band called the -5, which has two members of REM in it.
Whoa! Oh, which members?
Peter Buck and Scott McCoy, who's sort of like the late addition. He's a guitar player that joined in the 90s.
Nice. So he doesn't really count.
Yeah. No.
So it's not quite Wang Chung, but
No, it's no Wang Chung. But
we all can't open for Wang Chung. Before we go too deep into the roundtable discussion, I wanted to mention that we've got a little special discount for our listeners. Right now, if you go to CD Baby, or if you go to members.cdbaby.com and sign up a new album, if you use coupon code DIYPodcast20, you'll get 20% off your album submission. So all of you who are getting ready to sign up an album for the Christmas season, take advantage of this coupon. You'll save some money, and then we can say, hey, people who listen to this show actually do use CD Baby.
And that was DIY Podcast 20.
Yes, use that code. I'm not going to post it on the blog, so you got to, it's exclusive for those of you who actually listen to the show. And if you can't make it this far into the show without shutting us off, there's some people here that would have already tuned us out. Yeah. That's like... I've talked to people who said I can't stand listening to podcasts for more than 5 minutes. So, but yeah, check that out. And a little tip, I won't tell this to everybody, but our listeners, I'll tell you that you don't have to be releasing your album right this month in order to take advantage of the coupon. You can go ahead and sign up your new project, even if it's going to be a few more months. Go ahead and sign up, use the coupon code, take advantage of the discount, and you'll be ready to go when your album's ready to be released. But yeah, little gift for you, and that coupon code will expire December 1st. So, and then Bolton here wanted to mention something that Host Baby's doing.
Yes, speaking of deals, we're doing a special offer this month. We're calling it October Madness. Basically, for $199, you get 13 months of hosting. Normally, when you pay $199, you get 12 months of hosting, which is 2 free months. So basically, you get 3 free months of hosting when you pay $199 only in October. So if you're a Host Baby member, or if you're thinking of signing up, pay now. You're saving $61 on web hosting. And when you sign up, the first month is free. So if I really want to get into it, we're talking about 14 months of hosting.
There's a whiteboard. There's a whiteboard over here if you'd like to storyboard this out, and I could take a picture. And
let me break it down for you. Basically, you get a deal if you sign up for a year of hosting. So just do it, okay?
And by the time people hear this, how many days will they have left?
Like one.
Okay.
So
by the time people hear this, there should be a week left of the deal.
Okay, but it expires October 31st?
Yes, because then it won't be... I mean, October Madness in November, that's just silly.
That is just
silly. There's confusion about 12 months, 13 months, 14 months. Maybe October Madness extends into...
Well, here's the thing. Whenever you sign up for Host Baby, you get a free month of hosting. You can cancel without any obligations. So it doesn't hurt to sign up and try it out, even if you miss the deal.
Yeah, so check it out. And actually, there's some really cool things just around the corner at Host Baby that I'm really excited about. Everyone here is really excited about.
They have a new website template that will guarantee make you famous.
It's true. It's called the Make You Famous template. Yeah.
And it's not for anyone. You got to be prepared for fame. You just can't turn that on lightly.
Think about the drugs, the women,
it's a commitment.
Popularity.
But
Stop.
you
Not
know,
everyone can handle it.
we don't have too many commercial type messages on this podcast, and but these are our employers, and we appreciate you using their services so we can stay employed and keep bringing you this podcast. So there you have it. Anything else?
Brought to you by Rayon.
What's the Prairie Home Companion? Buttermilk biscuits.
Oh,
Buttermilk biscuits.
all right. Well, let's get into some news.
CD Baby.
Music.
There may be signs of longevity for music services like Spotify. Sources from the UK are claiming that Spotify's premium subscriber service total of subscribers is approaching the 650,000 user mark. But how many of these 650,000 are actually paying full fare? On a pan-European basis, 90% are paying the full €10 monthly amount, with 10% paying the €5 a month plan. I know many of our UK and European listeners enjoy Spotify. Still no official word on when the service will be available in the US, but we will keep you posted on that. Ustream, the live video streaming site, will be adding some new features in coming weeks. The Ustream Open Pay-Per-View program and ad-free broadcasting. Open Pay-Per-View, or Open PPV as you might see it, is currently available to only a small hand-selected group. But this service will allow anyone broadcasting via the site to apply in order to charge viewers for content. Once applicants are approved for the program, they will be able to monetize their content via PayPal. The revenue split between the user and Ustream has not been officially announced, but those interested in the program can start signing up at ustream.tv/PPV to receive notices about the application process or to submit requests for their own PPV shows. In the meantime, ad-free broadcasting should be launched sometime in early November. Once available, broadcasters will be provided with a variety of options, which the company won't elaborate on just yet, but which will essentially allow them to remove the ads, for broadcasters to remove the ads.
PPB, is that pay for peekaboo?
I'm sure that's what it is. At last year's South by Southwest, YouTube launched its Musicians Wanted program, which allows up-and-coming musicians to apply to become partners of the video sharing site, thereby reaping the benefits of advertising and exposure. Back then, only U.S. artists could apply, but YouTube announced this past week on its blog that the partner program is now extending beyond the U.S. to Australia, Canada, France, Ireland, the Netherlands, Spain, the UK, Sweden, the Czech Republic, Argentina, and New Zealand. So if you live somewhere in that vicinity, head on over to the sign-up page at youtube.com/partner to apply. Finally, Apple announced a new version of iLife, iLife 11. Some interesting upgrades that will interest musicians are rhythm stretching, beat correction, and more amp modeling in GarageBand, and much better audio editing options in iMovie. And those are the headlines. News items.
The Ustream thing reminded me that Elvis Costello is releasing an album next month where the whole thrust of his promotional campaign is all social networking stuff. So he's got little Easter eggs embedded all over his website that he's going to be giving clues to on Facebook and Twitter. He's doing concerts on Ustream. I forget there's a few other things, but it's all...
Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, the Ustream thing I thought was interesting because we have quite a few listeners who have been trying that and having some success at doing Ustream shows. So I'm kind of curious to see what their qualifications will be for people to try the pay-per-view service.
Because technically, you could sell tickets basically to a live performance.
Yeah. So basically, it's and I know we interviewed Matthew Ebel, episode number 65, about broadcasting Ustream, and he's actually this past week or the week before announced that he was going to be cutting back. He was doing it weekly, the Ustream shows, and I think he's going to a monthly thing. But it might someone like him who's built up an audience at Ustream. I'm curious to see if his audience is big enough for them to accept him into that program. I would assume it is, and then if he's able to monetize that, and if it works. And
cutting back because it's killing his draw, quote
No.
unquote, or is it just it's a lot?
I
of
forget
work?
why he said. I think it was just that it was becoming too much the same, I think, and he wanted to spread them out more to make it more of a special event instead of like a weekly check-in. But don't quote me on that. Matthew, you can call us.
Call us.
Let us know.
Yeah.
The YouTube thing. As I was reading that list of countries, I was thinking, I think we have listeners in all of those countries that have contacted us at one time or another. But yeah, they're opening that up. I know when we announced that originally, people were kind of bummed because it was just in the U.S. And the interesting thing, when we first started talking about the partner program on the podcast, it was one of those things where it was like you really had to have some videos that were getting a lot of views, like in the thousands at minimum, maybe even in the 100,000s before you'd be accepted. But I'm hearing about artists who get accepted all the time that might just have one video that's done well. In fact, I was thinking, it's about time I need to try signing up for Hello Morning, because that T-shirt video we made is like past 6,000 views. So it's worth trying to sign up. They they'll tell you if you're accepted or rejected, but it doesn't seem to be totally based on just views alone. So check into that.
I thought it was some cool little improvements in the iLife suite. I mean, I think that as many musicians, probably our listeners, have discovered, if you do have a Mac, that the GarageBand is a great songwriting tool. Fidelity-wise, probably not the best recording program, but a really easy to use song composition tool, and adding the beat moving and beat correction, it really will help. I mean, at least for me, it helps when I'm just trying to jot down a song, basically throw down some guitar with with a clap track or with a electronic drum track or something like that, to be able to adjust time signatures and correct mistakes and stuff like that, so I can get an accurate picture of what I'm working on. That's cool.
Yeah, I've always loved using it for songwriting. The one thing I'm curious to see if they fixed is you could import MIDI files, but you couldn't export MIDI files, and that drives me crazy because you'll import something like, I've got a program like Easy Drummer that's real simple to use in GarageBand, and it'll make an authentic sounding drum kit, and then I can't export that file back out of GarageBand.
Yeah, that's always the problem, though, with some of those iLife apps, is you get just to the point of needing a professional upgrade, of using more professional software when you ask too much of it.
Yeah, but it is great for songwriting, and like you said, the audio quality is not pro. I'm sure they keep making upgrades, but it's a good tool. And iMovie, that's something that for making videos for the Hello Morning and just videos in general, that has always driven me crazy how the audio
editing
works. But they've made some big improvements there. So making your YouTube videos should be a lot easier.
And that's like $45 upgrade.
Yeah, $49, I think. It's super cheap. It's probably worth it. Before we get into our discussion on Sound Exchange, I wanted to do a brief recap on our fan funding project, since it ended after our last roundtable discussion.
The Hello Morning project?
Yes, the Hello Morning project that we were funding on Rocket Hub. And the good news is we made our goal.
Woohoo!
With a day to spare.
With a day to spare. And so I wanted to give some observations. And first of all, I want to thank several of the listeners, including Robert Lee King, contributed to the fan funding project.
Generous.
And so I appreciate the podcast listeners that supported that. But I had a couple quick points that I wanted to run down, and then Bolton here had a story that I thought that ties into one of my last questions to the community of artists. But the first thing, it is a campaign, and you got to be prepared to go the long haul and have a plan to continue to reach out over and over again in different methods. It's not just to post on your social network once and be done with it. That's probably, if I had it to do over again, would have started this earlier, before recording was even in progress. We were already in the middle of recording, and so kind of juggling the two, because it is a campaign and you got to put a lot of time and energy into it. And we could have done more, but just didn't have the time to. But we made our goal. Number 2, personal connections matter. It's not just about the internet and social network sites. We emailed people individually that we knew would be interested. We emailed our fan base, but then individually, outside of just blasting our email list, we wrote letters to people individually. And then there were some people that I even met with in person, somebody that ended up being our big donor at the end. I knew he was going to contribute some money, and I went and hung out with him and talked about it. And I called him on one occasion, and it was somebody who I knew wanted to contribute. It wasn't like I, put the pressure. I held a gun to his head, and he wrote a check.
Although that's an option, too.
That is an option. I didn't put it on my list, but if it works for you. Yeah. Number 3, don't assume your fans know what you're talking about. Fan funding is new. And the biggest response we got from when we started emailing people and posting on social networks is, wow, what a cool idea. I haven't heard of this before. And so along the way, I felt like not only you just can't go out of the gate assuming they know what you're talking about. There's a little bit of education that you're going to have to do with your fan base. That'll probably change some over time, but it's still always, the people who aren't plugged into what's going on in the creative community aren't going to necessarily know what fan funding sites are. They may have heard of some of them, but they're still probably not tracking with exactly what you're talking about. So it's important to keep that kind of message in there and be clear. And number 4, I've got use all the tools you can. Video is incredibly important. You got to have a video like announcing the project. We probably could have done a better job of doing updates. In fact, I know we could have done a better job of doing updates. And there are tools on the services to allow you to update people. And it was just, like I said, we were already in the process of recording our album. And it was just overwhelming to kind of keep track with that, keep working on the album, have our day-to-day lives. And so that's why I probably would have, if I do this again, would do it further out from the project beginning. And number 5, it doesn't end when you get the money. We have received our money from Rocket Hub, but that's not the end of it. I had to go through and email everybody. I emailed them individually and thanked them. But then, there was different reward levels. So I need addresses. I need, one of the reward levels was for $50, you could get your picture in the album. Well, they don't magically appear at my house. I gotta get those from them. And then, somebody did. A couple of people gave $100, so we're gotta work on putting together that little party at the studio where we recorded. So it doesn't end when you get the money. And in order to successfully run your campaign, you gotta see it all the way to the end, and it is fulfilling all those obligations. And then, and then just making sure that they get what you promised. The interesting thing was, I know in the interview with Bryan, he talked about the average price people paid. For us, the most popular price point was $20. I think we had 10 people give that, maybe a little more. I can't remember exactly. And then the second was $50. And I think that actually was tied with, it might have been 50 and 10, might have been tied. I can't remember. The Rocket Hub page is still up and you can see it. But so it wasn't like the $5 donation level wasn't the most popular. Right. And then my question was, and this kind of ties into what Bolton was going to say, is I had a friend who thought we would reach our goal quicker if we had used Kickstarter. And I was saying, why do you say that? And he said that everybody knows about Kickstarter and less people have heard about Rocket Hub. And I told him that I don't think people have heard of either. People that are tied into, reading music business blogs probably have heard of both. And Kickstarter has gotten some press, but I don't think the average person has paid attention to either because it doesn't really apply to them. And so my question was, does the service use even matter? My initial reaction was, or the initial reaction we got from most people was, wow, this is a cool idea. Never heard of this before. So obviously, across the board, our fan base had not heard of either. And therefore, it's just a matter of whether the site presents the project well and allows them to check out in an easy manner. And we had no complaints about having the checkout process or anything like that. So, but that's the question I was going to put out there. If anyone listening has used Kickstarter and just seemed like a lot of people were donating that had never heard of the project before, or I don't know, I was just curious because, we interviewed Allison Weiss a year and a half ago, I think, it's been now about using Kickstarter, but so much has changed since then.
Well, the thing I was thinking about this, because we're about to start one and we're trying to choose which site we want to use, and we had this sort of desperation going, like, we got to make this video right away. We got to do this before it becomes a fad and everyone's sick of it. And like, because I know as a musician, I'm getting sick of it. All my friends' bands are doing it. I see, I'm like, another Kickstarter campaign. But then I think, well, you know, I'm not contributing to their campaigns. They're not going to contribute to mine. So that's the wrong audience. My parents, you know, my wealthier, older fans, band members, families, things like that. That's who I want to appeal to. The people who have money. So they've never heard of either. So I don't think it matters.
Yeah. And that's, you know, to me, that's when it boiled down to like the presentation on the website. And there's some tools on Rocket Hub that I like over Kickstarter. And there's some tools on Kickstarter that I thought were better than, or a couple options on Kickstarter that I thought were better than what was on Rocket Hub. The thing with, you know, my overall opinion is, if you look at where Kickstarter's going, you know, they've got, it's probably over, the campaign I think is over by now, but like recently a movie was on there getting $100 and some $1,000. Most of the projects on the front are like in the tens of thousands of dollars now. And I really see that it's eventually going to split off where anyone's going to be able to attempt to use Kickstarter, because they can still reject you. And that's what Bolton's story is about. But I have a feeling that there's going to be projects or sites like Rocket Hub that are really geared towards the indie community, helping them fund their projects, which is what I like about Rocket Hub. Where Kickstarter, it's harder to find projects there unless you know what you're looking for, and you're not going to be featured on the front as an indie artist looking for, you know, $1,000. You know, they've got these massive projects that are on there.
I mean, at the core, what you can expect, I think, from these campaigns is this is a great way of basically milking your friends and family for monetary support of your project. And like, there is this sort of icing on the cake bonus that you might attract some other people to the project. I mean, with Kickstarter, sure, if they feature you on the front page, you may get a whole bunch of people that you don't know, like, investing in your project. But you have to have a really good story. And I know we've talked about having a story for your music, but just making an album isn't a good enough story to get on the front page of Kickstarter. You have to have like some sort of drama that grabs people's attention and, you know, doing something that no one's ever done before. And then you might get featured on the front page of Kickstarter, and then you might get strangers investing in your project. But I think that if you have a really good story, you may very well get some investments from outside of your sphere of friends and family. But I think that just focusing on your friends and family is good. It works. You know, like, I mean, anything else is icing on the cake.
Yeah, I would have to say that most of the people that contributed to our campaign were either, you know, people that we knew directly and asked to contribute, people who were just fans of the band that we knew, you know, but had, you know, not like when I say that the fans that we knew, they weren't family, and they weren't, you know, personal friends that we had outside of the band. There may be people that we had met from shows, and they come to shows and they really like the band, so we started having a relationship with them.
I guess I should have included fans.
Friends and
family.
But then there was probably a few people that were random that none of us knew who were, but they could have been somebody on our fan list that we just haven't met before. But for the most part, it was people that, you know, I could look down the list and know all of them, either, you know, a fan that's come to a lot of shows, or, you know, a friend from high school, or, you know, those kind of things, people that wanted to support us. So, you know, that's your core audience. Until you build up to having a big following and bigger email list, that's going to be your core audience. You know, next time around, if we tried this, it might be a different story. There might be a lot of people contributing that we don't know. But anyway, so what you've to wrap this section up, right. I wanted you to share what you told me this past week, and then we'll move on.
My housemate runs a preschool, and they had to move from one location to another, and they incurred a lot of expenses, and they decided they were going to do a Kickstarter project. They worked really hard on a video. They had all these different packages. They were going to record a CD of all the kids singing music, and they had like 10 different options at different donation points and stuff like that they were going to do. And they got a really nice package. They put it together. They presented it to Kickstarter. Kickstarter denied them. I think, maybe because it didn't quite come across as a creative project. Even though they're doing the CD and stuff, it was still kind of obvious that what they were ultimately trying to accomplish was to, move the school to a new location, which, while that can sure pull at your heartstrings, it's maybe not what Kickstarter is looking for. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they got denied, but the result of it was that they were going to do it on their own. So she has a good friend who's a graphic designer who designed the page. I volunteered my time to build it out of HTML, and we just set up a PayPal button on there, and then did an email blast, Facebook blast. She, let all the parents know. The parents let other people know. And they set a goal of $20,000, and within the first couple of days, they'd already done like $2,000 or $3,000, and they're still doing very well right now. I mean, getting a lot of donations. I don't know if they'll make the $20,000 mark, but I think it's doing as well as it probably would have done as a Kickstarter project. And I think it's proof in a way that you don't necessarily need to use one of these services. That, with a little bit of know-how and with some people to help you, you can create one on your own. I mean, it wasn't,
and not necessarily have that giant pressure. Although I think, the pressure is probably good. That if you don't meet this mark, you're not going to get the money. Keeps you motivated and keeps you engaged with the people that are going to contribute. But at the same time, it's probably a stress that they don't have now.
Right, and the nice thing, they have the story, they have the video, they have the incentives, they have the, they did everything thinking that they were going to have a Kickstarter project. So they Kickstarter makes you do all those things so you have an actual viable campaign that you can market to people. And so when they got refused by Kickstarter, they still had a very viable campaign that was marketable to people. Right.
And I'm surprised they got refused, because I know Kickstarter isn't just creative projects. They have businesses, they have things other than just creative stuff on there. So I just thought that was an interesting story that, highlighted that some of the differences, that, if you get rejected from Kickstarter, doesn't mean you don't have a viable campaign. And, and you even said that James Mercer from the Shins, who lives here in Portland, that his kid goes to that school and is going to do a benefit concert as well. So, I mean, it's not like it's just somebody who just rolled out of bed one morning and said, I'm going to do a campaign to get my preschool moved. I mean, they had like some serious guns behind them, pushing this thing through, and it got rejected. So I thought that was an interesting story. I'd love to hear back from our listeners if you've been doing a campaign. I know one of our listeners, Jacob Moon, has been doing a Rocket Hub campaign and was very successful, exceeded his goal. I think it ends in a day or two from this recording. It'll be done by the time everyone listens. But I saw him on there. But if you've been doing a fan funding campaign on any service, I'd like to hear how your experience was with that service. You can email us at info@cdbabypodcast.com or call at 206-426-5683. Just like to keep hearing stories about successes, failures, what worked, what didn't. And I know a lot of people are going to be trying that, so it's good to share. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Sound Exchange, which was our last interview with Bryan Calhoun from Sound Exchange. And the funny thing is, I think since the three of us have worked here, it is the one legit company that's out there that every time we tell artists about it, they think it's a scam. It's pretty funny. It's not a scam, people. It is legit.
And not only is it a scam, but I posted some information about Sound Exchange on our blog, the DIY Musician blog, the other day. And then there seemed to be a string of posts from people saying, this is really hard to sign up for. Can you just do it for us, CD Baby? I'm like, no, we don't have anything to do with collecting your performance royalties. That's your job.
Can't you just make my albums for me, Chris?
Well, I could do that.
It'd be so much easier. That's true. You would do that.
I will make your album for you, but I will not sign up for Sound Exchange for you.
Because I haven't signed up yet. I went and signed up today, and it is a pretty lengthy sign-up form.
But it is, I downloaded it. I haven't done it yet. It is important to give them all that information because it is different than any other performing rights organization out there. It's not ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. But a lot of you left comments on the podcast blog, and I figured what we'd do is we just read down some of them because a lot of them are good questions or interesting points, and I figured we'd just chat about them, and that way you, our listeners, are driving the conversation. So some of these names obviously aren't real, like this first one, Indie Folker. I'm sure his parents didn't name him that. or her parents, I don't know. They wrote, "It's kind of strange to find out that in the United States, the owners of the recording are not getting their royalties for radio airplay. So surprised to learn this." So obviously they're not in the U.S., but yeah, it's something that if you're in other countries, a lot of the performing rights organizations do collect for this already, and it's something that hasn't been around in the U.S., and that's why Sound Exchange was set up. And it wasn't, just because the power the broadcasters have, they weren't allowed to collect for traditional broadcast radio, but in emerging markets like the internet and satellite radio and stuff. So Edward D. writes, "I'm aware that an indie artist can submit their music to Pandora. Going for that right now, thanks to another DIY podcast. Is there a list somewhere on CD Baby or elsewhere that details who these site services are and how you can go about submitting your music for play on their services?" And I don't know I don't know if you guys know of it.
It's a comprehensive list of internet radio.
Yeah, internet radio stations.
Does the Indie Bible have
I think the Indie Bible is probably a good bet. They have a good list of all those kind of places. I don't know. The hard thing for me, whenever I look at these things, it's always difficult to figure out which one's worth my time, because most of them, it's going to take you probably at least 10, 15 minutes filling out emails or a form, uploading your music.
And everybody wants you to think that they're a popular music listening service, whether or not they are.
That's true. So I don't know. I would suggest the Indie Bible, but or Musicians Atlas probably has a good list.
It is a lot of work in my experience, it's a lot of work for a little bit of rewards. So basically, you're going to send your CD to these places, hopefully nurture some kind of relationship with a DJ or programmer, and then because they have so much music, you'll get played once every 4 days or once a week or something, and okay, what is that, 5 cents?
Maybe. Maybe not that much.
I guess you get the exposure, and there's the chance that the listeners are going to be like, "Oh, great!" But in my experience with traditional terrestrial radio, something doesn't really catch on until you've heard it a billion times.
Yeah. Right.
So my one song you're hearing once a week.
The only difference I see, because I agree in terrestrial radio, you have to get tons of plays in order to really translate into lots of album sales, but is that in this case, with internet radio, your listener is sitting in front of a computer who can take action right there if they are liking what they hear. I've listened to internet radio and being like, what's this? And then Googled the band and clicked around.
Well, with something like Pandora or some of the other, more sociable internet radio companies, if you like something, very often it'll come back and you'll listen to it again. And very often they have a buy button. In that case, I've gotten to know bands through Pandora and eventually purchased their music because I give it a thumbs up the first time, and then they play it for me again, and then they play it for me again, and then I'm like, I do like this, I'm going to buy it.
Going back to the other question from, it's same person. We haven't moved on yet. Mentioning where a list of them might be, XM, Satellite, and Sirius. A lot of their stations that they have, it's a service, but then they break it out in all these different channels that are, independent stations that plays different kinds of music. A lot of those places on the website tell you how to submit music for that specific show. So it's pretty easy to go on there and find the shows that where your music fits. And then a lot of them have submission guidelines. So that's also a method of finding those. Aaron writes, "Why are all the nonprofit Sound Exchange people not volunteers? Someone else is getting paid, not just the artist. Sounds like a bunch of hooey to me." Yes, I'm sure there are lots of accountants and people that would like to go tabulate all these royalties for free.
Sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. There's
nonprofit does not mean that nobody gets paid. It just means all the money goes back into the business itself.
Yeah.
There's no profits that are paid out into shareholders or things like that. But yes, people do get paid, and you should want them to get paid because no one's going to do that job and do it well without getting paid.
Exactly. Unless you want to.
Yeah, unless you want to do it for free. Matt Blick wrote, would it be worth UK artists registering with Sound Exchange? It sounded like you were asking that question, but then got sidetracked into the US law question. And I think it is if you're getting, if you're on Pandora, if you're on services that music is being played in the US, then yeah, it's definitely worth signing up. And you mentioned that you had just done the sign-up process, Bolton. It breaks things out like the featured performer and the musicians, correct?
Yeah, I mean it asks for like the composer and the owner of the recording and the song names and the album and and then everything from your bank number to your social security number to I think they asked for my social security number. I can't remember now, but it's a lot of information. I didn't actually have it all available when I was filling it out, so I think my application
What if
may
it's a scam?
What if it's a scam?
I think it is a scam to just get artists to give their social security.
Well, it sounds like a scam.
Because artists have such huge bank accounts.
How many spam emails have you gotten that said like there may be money waiting for you in a Swiss bank account?
It's funny because that is basically exactly the email we send out to the baby artists. It says there may be money waiting for you. Only this time it's true.
Yeah,
I did use their. He talked about this in the interview. Their sort of lookup feature, which is separate. I forget what they call it, but you can look up and see if they have logged any of your tracks in their database or collected royalties for them before you even sign up. And I searched that and saw all my tracks were there, so I guess that means there's money for me.
Yeah, and one thing that he mentioned in the interview that I thought worth noting is that when you upload your music to various services, it's very important that you include metadata, that's beyond just, the MP3 being titled with the artist's name and the song name. The more information you can have already embedded into the MP3 and that's, the service that you're signing up with has, the better the chance that Sound Exchange is going to be able to track those plays.
Well, and I started wondering, because, you think about searches online, they're so specific. If you search for Chris Bolton opposed to Chris C. Bolton opposed to Christopher Charles Bolton.
Right.
Like there's
How about the Bolt?
Or the Bolt. You're going to get all different results. So I was just sitting there kind of sweating, like, how should I enter my name as composer?
How do you know that? Yeah, right.
Because I'm like, and then I'm thinking like I should always be consistent. Like when I put metadata in for music that I've worked on, it should always be one way. And I guess I haven't really even decided what that is, but it should either just be, Chris Bolton or Chris C. Bolton or whatever, because I wonder if that won't be hard for Sound Exchange to find composer information if I write my name 4 different ways.
Yeah, that's probably good to be consistent. Not only with just with the information in general. I mean, even just, how you do your band name or whatever. If you keep changing the way if you like your band name separate is 2 words, then decide 1 word, and then maybe swapping out a funny character for a letter, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah. And creative spellings I'd stay away from as well. From working at a web hosting company, if you spell every word in your band name wrong, no one's going to find you online.
And we have plenty of people doing that. Rob Fass, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, wrote, most indie artists don't expect to get tons of plays on the internet radio, let alone terrestrial radio. So unless you're a well-known act, the money gained from this would be negligible. Call me stupid, but I don't care about collecting the $2 that's probably owed to me from these internet performance royalties over the last 3 years. A much more effective use of my time would be to focus on activities that can generate the most profit. It's a complete waste of time to try and squeeze a profit out of every last opportunity. The only metric that matters in business is cumulative profit. It doesn't matter if I'm losing in one area if another area completely makes up for it. I could try and collect every last thousandth of a cent owed to me through Sound Exchange, or I could do a live show or license my songs or sell T-shirts or pretty much anything else for that matter.
I can understand his reluctance to spend that amount of time signing up, because I know with me, with ASCAP, because of the way they monitor plays, I'm not getting paid. I will never see a penny for times that I know I've heard my song on radio before. I know I should get something, in a perfect world, but they don't monitor plays that way, so I'll never see any of it. That being said, if he signs up his stuff with Sound Exchange, it's signed up forever.
Yeah,
I'll always
just
know
do
how
it
to
once.
get in touch with him. And if he does do something by investing his energies and time elsewhere that makes him wildly successful overnight, then he'll also have this stream of income coming in from Sound Exchange.
Fortunately, with a company like Sound Exchange, they are holding royalties for artists. So if you do become an overnight sensation, or just over time have built up money and never have signed up, they will hold that there until you claim it, and they match it up to you. But it's one of those things that it is a small investment of time, maybe an hour, 2 at the most, to fill out these forms, get them sent in, and then it's done. And then, you don't even have to mess with sound. You don't have to worry about Pandora. If you don't want to submit your music, fine, but there may be other services that somehow pick up your music and are playing it, and people are finding it on services, and then you start getting an income stream. It's just a bonus on top of what you're already doing.
And also, it's sort of it's marketing information. You can look at that revenue and see, whoa, more people are listening to my music this month. And I think that, retrospectively, you can look back and be like, what did I do in October? Oh, I did that tour, or I released that album, or I made that YouTube video. It's just, it gives you a little bit more sense of how people are interacting with your music online. And I think that sort of information is valuable, even if it only amounts to a few dollars.
Yeah, because then, we've got a great call coming up about this topic, where they actually share some hard dollar figures that were more than I expected that they were making from Sound Exchange. And, it's one of those things where, sure, it may not be the amount of money to quit your job, but it's those little streams that you find that are happening, okay, something's happening over here, whether it be XM radio. Say I'm getting played on XM radio. Well, where am I getting played? I'm going to reach out to that show and see if there's anything I can do to increase the number of plays, give them some freebies, give them something. And then, it gives you the data you need to help fuel that fire. If you don't have time to do that, that's fine. But it's those things that it's better to know where people are finding you, so you can encourage those relationships, as opposed to just
oh wow, my album's doing great on Pandora or Last FM or whatever. I need to make sure all my subsequent albums are there. Yeah,
or reaching out to some of the people there. I know that a lot of the shows on XM are like regular radio shows. They have DJs and they have people that you could build a relationship with. You can give away freebies. You can do things like that, and it's a lot easier to access than traditional terrestrial radio. We got a good call about this whole topic, so let's get to it.
CD Baby Podcast.
Message line
206-426-5683.
The number you have dialed.
206-426-5683.
Hey guys, this is Lucas Miller, the singing zoologist from Austin, Texas, on my way back from rocking out with a bunch of kindergartners, third graders at East Terrell Hills Elementary in San Antonio, and listening to the Sound Exchange podcast. Those guys are great. Love what they do. They've been playing my music quite a bit. XM Radio has been playing my music quite a bit on their kids channel. And a few years ago, I got an email from them that I thought was spam. Oh, you are owed a whole bunch of money. And I'm very skeptical. I called another friend of mine who's a well-established children's artist too. And he said, oh, yeah, they're for real. So get them your info. And I now get $2,000 to $3,000 per quarter as a result of getting played on XM. I think, and that's where it mostly comes from. I can't tell if there are other sources or not. It's a little hard to read their, they're quite lengthy, the statements. But yeah, I get it seems like about $2 or $3 a play, and they play me almost every day. So it's turned into some good income. Another thing I thought you all might be interested in doing a show about, and this may apply to a lot of your artists that especially are in the ethnic music and the folk music fields. I am on the Texas Commission of the Arts. They have a roster of touring artists, and schools can apply for grants that cover half of my fee. So I get to charge what I need to charge to make a living and support my family, but the school gets between a third and half of it reimbursed from the state of Texas. With the economic times, some of the state arts agencies have been closed up, but if you've got an arts agency, it's worth looking into, and I thought that might be something you all would want to mention on your show. Anyway, I love your podcast. Thanks so much for all your help, and keep up the good work. Take care.
All right, thanks for that call, Lucas, the singing zoologist.
The singing zoologist.
I thought that was interesting. Because in the podcast, the interview, I asked for artists to call in if they had any specific stories with dollar amounts, and
he said $2 or $3 a play. I think that must be incorrect.
Did he mean a day?
A day, maybe.
I don't know. It kind of got a little garbled there.
Well, we can probably safely tell our audience that he's probably not getting $2 or $3 a play on XM radio.
Right.
Maybe a day would make sense because, well, he said he's getting $2,000 or $3,000 a quarter. Yeah, I don't know. $2 or $3 a day.
But I mean, traditional radio, it's like a couple of pennies a play, right?
Well, it's less than that. I mean, it's got to be a day or something. Well, maybe he'll call in and verify. But $2,000 or $3,000 a quarter, just divide that by how many days are in a quarter, and that's what you got.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. So I mean, it's not only a nice little extra income. That's $2,000 or $3,000 a quarter. That could be $12,000 a year. That's not money to.
I would quit half of my day job.
Yeah,
half your day job. So yeah, thanks for calling in with that info, Lucas, and I'm sure a lot of it's probably coming from XM radio, and it's the thing with Sound Exchange is I believe there's no standard across the board fee. I think it changes per business,
per company.
Yeah,
right. They negotiate the cost and
because
payment.
XM's a paid subscription service, there may be a different pool of money and it may pay out better. I don't know.
Obviously, yeah.
If anybody knows for certain, give us a call. But thanks for that call, Lucas. If you'd like to weigh in on any of the topics mentioned, the number is 206-426-5683. And we also had a great blog article about musician horror stories that I was hoping someone would call in that we'd be able to share before Halloween, but we still would love to hear some horror stories. There's some great ones on there. It's
always the season for horror stories.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll
hide under the bed.
You'll feel one with your fellow indie musician because it's happened to all of us.
Bass drums, they go bump in the night.
My favorite, I was monitoring the blog and approving most of these stories. I think we got like 80 or something like that. One of my favorites was this artist was backstage opening up. No, not even. I think maybe they were headlining. I forget, but it was a big show. A lot of people in the audience. They're backstage practicing, warming up, playing their scales, and they notice that there's someone sort of lurking in the room.
Oh yes.
And they look up and sort of like maybe like, can I help you sort of vibe going on, and the person says to the artist, let's say the artist's name's Bob. Bob, I'm really happy for you. Things are going so well for you. And then they realized it was this person they'd known from high school or something like that, or some past experience.
That was their enemy.
Their enemy said, I'm really glad things are going so well for you. This is such a big show. I just want you to know that I'm going to kill you.
And he was holding a knife.
What? And the person just, out of panic and not knowing what to do, just kept running their scales. And then the person walked out. They played their show and noticed that this menace was in the back of the bar starting trouble with other folks. I think got in like a bar fight. And I can't remember how it ended, but
I think he got thrown out or something. But you could see it happening from stage.
Right. So he didn't get killed, but then he said the moral of the story is practice your scales.
So yeah, there's some good stuff on there, and we'd love to have you call into the podcast, or you can leave it on that blog. There's some good ones there. We're going to finish up with an email by Sarah Donner. It was a very cool email she sent in, and a great idea for some videos. But she writes, "Hey fellas, after listening to a number of your shows mentioning niche marketing, I took to the internet. My quirkiest music videos, one of a kitten listening to me play ukulele, I sent to cat lover websites. The other, a music video taken in our tour minivan called the Center Pivot Irrigation Song in honor of the long trek through Kansas, I sent to farm and gardening websites. Well, my kitten video has gone viral after being featured on Modern Cat and a number of popular kitten daily cute websites. And my irrigation song will be featured on NPR's You Bet Your Garden with Mike McGrath this Saturday, so I'm sure it's already happened. He saw the video, loved it, and invited me to the studio for an interview and performance.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sharing all the information that sometimes seems so mysterious to the DIY artist. The veil is being lifted." So I thought that was really cool. I don't know if you know what she's talking about, the Center Pivot Irrigation Song. When you fly over the U.S., the middle of the country that's farms, all those circles.
Oh, center pivot irrigation.
They're irrigation systems that all pivot in a circle and keep, water the farm. So
I always felt bad for those four little sort of
the corners
that got neglected.
But anyway, she did this really cool video. They must have been bored on tour, and somebody in either her or one of her band members can draw really well. They just took one of those yellow legal pads, that you've seen, and they kind of did a storyboard. They wrote this song about the center pivot irrigation systems, and it's a very clever song, and she's sitting in the front seat of their van playing, and somebody you just see their arms is flipping through the legal pad with the different images that go along with the song, explaining what it is. And it was a really cool video, all just the camera sitting on the dashboard or whatever, and I don't think they were driving though. But yeah, it's a really cool video, and it's a great way of realizing that my audience may not be a music community. It's, gardening communities will find this song entertaining and discover her music. And then the cat.
Farmers and crazy cat ladies.
The cat video is funny. It's just the cat sitting there staring at the camera, and he starts to fall asleep and almost fall over. And
If you really want to make millions, you just need a good cat video.
That's right.
I mean, you guys should know that by now.
Well,
a good
I've
cat
got morning already tried it.
Well, we haven't done it yet, but I've got a dog video. My dog howls when I play D, the note D. And he doesn't howl as much as he kind of just makes this funny noise and face, and he looks like he's singing. And I've recorded it. I haven't put it online yet, but
So you just got to write a song now that has a lot of sort of long howls.
That's right.
Did you guys ever see Pink Floyd live at Pompeii?
No.
There's a song they perform, song in quotes, which is just, I forget which one. One of them's strumming an acoustic guitar doing sort of a 12-bar blues. Another one's playing the harmonica, and then another one's pinching the ear of a dog that's just howling.
Oh my God.
I think it's sort of like uncomfortable because he's being pinched, and also the harmonica is really just squealing. And that's like the singer of the song is this tortured dog.
Oh God. Don't do that.
But I will post links to these videos, and thanks for sharing, Sarah. I thought it was really cool ideas and simple, and just something that, you got to realize a lot of times as an artist that the song you write has interest to other communities, not just someone who's looking for some, the latest cool song. It's a way to connect with them in a different way, and sometimes even a better way. So, and you can get on NPR. Someone write a song about cars. Get on the Car Talk. So that's going to do it for this edition of the podcast. Again, if you'd like to call, 206-426-5683. If you'd like to email, info@cdbabypodcast.com. And you can find the episodes in iTunes or on our blog. You can comment there at cdbabypodcast.com. And lots more coming. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Bye.
You've been listening to the CD Baby DIY Musician Podcast, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon, USA.